So this is what we achieved last year. This is the new bathroom and ensuite and utility area. Or it will be when it's all been partitioned off. We have no plumbing in here yet. We have, of course, the waste pipes for the sinks and toilets, but the fresh water is only just through there, so that's a job for the village plumber. We have the electrics brought this far. They're on a wall here. That comes from the main consumer unit over by the front door. The electrics can't be put on yet until all the walls are done, and that means plasterboarding. We also need a ceiling, of course. We don't have one. We have the gable end that's been bricked up at that end, but the other end is still open to the atmosphere. In fact, I'm surprised that no birds have come in and nested in here in the course of the winter. Hopefully they haven't discovered it yet. The rubble's all on the ground. We're still walking on hardcore. Actually, if I get my camera controller, if I move the camera down a bit, you can see behind me that there's various spare blocks and other bits of materials, and definitely just the hardcore floor, which needs concreting. Now that's going to be the first job we're going to have to do, I think. I just need to take some advice on whether we need to lay any plumbing in. But I've been talking to Colin about it. He said if you put plumbing under the floor and it goes wrong, you'll only have to break up the concrete to get it fixed. So I think maybe not, get the concrete down. So this is where I come through. This is where I trip up through into the main part of the house from the bathroom. This is where the water feed is from the water main. We need the village plumber to come in and make sure that goes somewhere, like all around the bathroom, and like into here where we're putting a kitchen along the side. Now, I haven't yet showed you the recap of what we did in the main part of the house last year, so let's start off by showing you that, and then we can discuss what happens in the future. Just to remind you of the one-bedroom bungalow I bought in Oresh, Bulgaria. It's on a triangular plot of land. It started out with 2 chimneys, neither of which we needed, so they were taken down on day one. And the other thing that was done on day one was a driveway was dug out to allow our access into the property. The property has an old-fashioned porch which houses out-of-date electrics and a number of other bits of junk which got cleared out later. And below the porch is the cellar, which is useful for storage if nothing else. The property came with a small living room area and a small kitchen area, and I didn't see much point in keeping those separate, so the first thing to do was to knock down the wall between them. It's made of mud bricks and it crumbles as you touch it, so this had to be done quite carefully. All the rubble that we created throughout this renovation was to come in useful later on, so it was shoveled out the window, left in a pile, and you will see that it gets used as hardcore. As much as I like original wooden floors, I was told that some of the flooring was rotten and that it all had to be taken up. So the decision was made to replace the wooden floor with a concrete floor. A bit of a shame, really. Now, if you need convincing that the septic pit is quite deep, watch this man going down into it, and then to my surprise, there's another man already down there that I hadn't even noticed. In the end, all the flooring will be replaced with a brand new concrete floor, so there's a lot more rubble created as we smash up bits of the original kitchen area, and later on the rubble here will be used in the bathroom extension, which you saw last time. I decided that some of the doorways were superfluous to requirements, so some of them got knocked out and widened, others actually got bricked up for reasons that will become apparent. Although a number of trades are involved with this renovation, the two main ones are the electrician, because it's a complete rewire, and you will see that the plaster is being chiselled out to take the cables, and also the sockets and light switches. The other work is mainly plastering, concreting, that sort of thing, and that all has to be mixed, and it's done just outside the front door. So we've now created a much bigger area that combines the old kitchen and the living room and what was the hall, which will become a sort of inset into the living room. I received an email one day saying that the new concrete floor would be too heavy to be supported by the cellar as it stood, and extra supports were going to be needed. So the fairly large cellar storage area had to be reduced by putting in 2 concrete pillars to hold up the floor above. The concrete floor was poured bucket load by bucket load, a fairly long and laborious process, and this is also the time at which it was necessary to create the openings into the bathroom extension. This is the day that the glazing people arrived to install the windows. Throughout all of this time, concreting of the floors was carrying on. They just had to keep out of the way of the areas where the windows were being put in. Glazing day was also mosquito neutralising day. As this spraying plane set out from Swishtov early in the morning, it actually woke me up in my hotel, and by mid-morning it was flying over the fields of Oresh. It doesn't kill mosquitoes, it actually makes the females infertile, and apparently that stops them needing our blood, so they just leave us alone. Sounds like a good thing to me. And this was the last year they used this plane, because this year I was in Swishtov when they were doing the spraying and totally unaware of it. Instead of starting in the morning, they now start at 8 o'clock at night. They fly very low and they use drones, so the whole thing has been updated and modernised. A concrete slab has been lying around the back of the property where the extension was being built for some time. A few strong men dragged it over to the garden area and put it on top of the septic pit, and it's now being concreted in to form the lid. It took until quite late on in the work for the bird's nest to be removed from the wall in the old kitchen area. The nest hadn't been used for months and the house had been closed off, so it couldn't have been used again. But I don't know if it was kept there for old time's sake. It finally was taken down though. And that's pretty much as far as we got in 2023, and we can take up the story from there now and take it through the next 12 months. It's going to be progressing a lot slower than it did last year because of the general economic situation and the lack of any further budget, so I guess I need to get a paper round or something. And now I'm going to attempt to walk around with this selfie stick and just hope the camera goes where I want it to go, because the sun is so bright today. It's temperatures in the 30s here, and I'm not staying out here too long. It's cooler in the house, but I want you to see the difference, if possible, by moving the camera around a bit. I think I might take it off the stick in a minute so that you can see what I want you to see. So I'll just walk around the corner a bit more. And it's just pointing up in the air because of the way things are configured. And if I move that up there, then it doesn't really come down to me. Oh well, camera trial's over. It's coming off this stick, and I'm going to show you how much tidying up has been done by the time I got here to Oresh. So the first thing I noticed is you can now get in the gate without any hassle at all, and they've also cleared the outside verge on the street, so you can put a car up there if you need to for now. Now, moving around a bit, down the side of the house there's a lot of the building waste. This looks like old window frames and stuff like that, and wood. Some of it I'm not sure where it's come from, some strange shapes. But anyway, it's obviously stuff that needs to be cleared from here eventually. Now, the good news is that having a friend who is now living here in Colin, he knows a few things, and he said I can get a skip for 60 lev a day, and he knows what size they are because he's had one, and he said I should get all this stuff into one skip, which is good news. So at the back here, and as we came around the side, there was a little low-level wall, which I wasn't really aware of up to now. Now I am. And then we've got some spare tiles, which no doubt we still need some to finish off the roof. Tiles are always useful. We have the original building that was out here. Don't know if they would have called this a summer house, but it's possible that you could make something of this with the materials lying around, or just get them cleared away. So coming round to the biggest part of the garden, I was calling it the front garden, I'm still inclined to because the road goes past it. That's obviously a pile of stuff that's just been left there. There are things like a door on the ground here. They've been used to walk on as kind of boards to get around the site when it was all messy. We obviously have a fair amount of bricks left. What we did have here in the early days was so much hardcore, but of course that's all gone as time went on as we used it all. This is the drive, which on the original videos you can see them driving in this way. Obviously been some rubble left there. This eventually will need concreting. There's some more rubble over here. I don't know where it's all come from, but I'm guessing it was in my house. And the septic pit, they've now cleared away to that so we can find it. It's over here and buried under piece of concrete. Turning around and looking back at the house, this is the end where the gable end was more or less finished. We've also got a fair bit of rendering to do around the kitchen window, and particularly above the patio door. We need to check that that lintel is working properly. There's a kitchen window I opened earlier, and it's actually got a fly screen, so nothing should fly in through there. Just remember to close those before I leave today. The patio door, well, the patio itself is an obvious need for a lot of work. That's possibly why these bricks might come in useful, because we need a plateau to come out on. No good having a patio door when I finally get to open it where I step out and fall into the garden. So that's the outside tour. You've had a look round, it's all reasonably clear. I just hope that I can find a gardener when we're actually here regularly, because we want it to stay like this. Staying in a room in Swishthof, the first thing I do on arrival is take the fairly long walk up to Billa, only to discover that the car park has been taken up, there's new number plate recognition equipment about to be unveiled, and the store itself has been gutted. There's nothing in there at all. But Colin took me down to this new supermarket they've been using, and typical of the British idea, it's slightly out of town. You can see that it's in a nice location, plenty of parking up front, there's also a car park around the back. It has a postbank cash machine, it has easy pay facilities, and a full-size pharmacy is inside. Oh, there you are. So welcome to Swishthof, and I'm up above the River Danube, as you can probably gather. Most of the town is up on a high level, but this time I'm staying down on the dock road, so I've just walked up a whole flight of stairs. I've never seen anything like it. Steps, stone steps. And if I'm not breathless from that, I don't know what would make me breathless. It's the sort of place you can come and sit and watch the sunset. There's a little bench along there you can sit on. Very nice indeed. And so is the room in the house that I've rented for a few days. So I'm a bit of an HMO dweller at the moment, it would seem. So let's have a look around. I'm afraid I'm not staying for the sunset. There's a very good restaurant up the hill there, and I'm heading that way for my evening meal. I only tried the stone steps once, but most of the time I went up the fairly steep roads, and don't forget that even in the evening the temperatures are still in the 30s, and even this white cat needs to stop for a rest. If you're wondering why I chose to stay in a room down on the dock road, it's because I came by bus this time, and it's only a 2-minute walk across the road from the bus station into the house I'm staying in. Now, as you can see, it doesn't look far from where my room is to where the restaurant I'm going to is, but it's all uphill, so it's a bit of a chore. The good news is coming back down again is easy. So this is the restaurant Swishthof. The first time I dined here with some friends was in the middle of the winter, so we were inside. But ever since, we've been outside in the courtyard. It's always been fine weather, even in the evening, and the food and the environment here are just delightful. The menus are made entirely of wood. The food isn't, by the way. It's delicious. I had a garlic and cheese flatbread and a beautiful chicken dish. I think the courtyard atmosphere speaks for itself. On a totally different day, Colin and I were up at the top of the town getting some keys cut, and we stopped at the Hotel Versailles for a drink. This is a hotel I've never stayed at, but one of these days might give it a try. Very relaxing afternoon here, and of course stroking a cat is one of those things that's very calming. Let's take a final trip back to Oresh. So one of the last things that got done last year was the putting in of a patio door, and you don't see many of these around this area. In fact, this actual door was brought over from the UK. That doesn't mean you can't get them here, you can, but it was already here and we bought it off someone who lives locally. I'm going to show you why I put this here and the whole reason for wanting to exploit the view that we have from here. I'm going to give you a few views from the different windows, and let's open the patio door first. I haven't figured that one out yet, so one of them twirly things, and I'll come back in a second. Okay, well that didn't work, I'm afraid. I can't get the patio door open. It seems to be jammed. I either need WD-40, but I also brought a spare Euro lock with me. Of course, if you know anything about fitting Euro locks, you have to get the existing door open first, and At the moment it's jammed and I don't want to make a mess of it because I'm never here for very long. So that view is the same as the view out of the other window, well, the kitchen window we're going to call that now. So I'll come to that in a minute, and I'm going to get the view from another one of my pocket cameras. Let me just get this going. What I'm going to do is open each window and point the camera out. The limitation of that is that in this country, because of it's so hot and there are mosquitoes about, there are fly screens on every window. So you're going to see a picture that I'm going to take now, which will be through a fly screen. But, oh, opened the window the wrong way. Hang on a minute. Try again. That's it. Dual opening. Okay, let's point that out of there. There's the view. Camera down a bit. Is it running? Yes, it is. Good. So there's the view out of, this is the side of the living room window as opposed to the front view. I call that the front view. It's probably, you'd call it the back garden, so it's a back view. It's a view across towards the Danube plain, so it's a great view, but you're not going to see much of that through this glass. You can have a go, but I'm not able to open that and there's no fly screens on it. Let's go over to the kitchen. Okay, you'll recall that we didn't finish the ceiling. It's got the profiles up, ready to hang plasterboard on. You can probably see that now. So let's film this out this window. Hang on, open it the right way again. Filming through the fly screen. There's the view down through the piece of land that we get, although it's municipal land and we can't really do anything with it other than enjoy it. So that's that. What else can I show you? Oh yeah, there's a window in the bedroom. Let's go through there. Now this is the room with the least natural light. It's a bedroom, you don't really need much. And it's dark at that end. That's the bit that goes through towards the bathroom. So the light is from here. Let's film two-way opening windows. That opens that way for ventilation. I'm going to have to get the hang of these, I can see. There we go. And let's film out of here, a completely different view, and there are some houses just below us, so you can see those. And there's a lane in between, which is our access road. So that's the view. Now we need the interiors finishing, and that's quite a job. So I shall be working on a list, and I'll let you know what we're going to be doing in the next 12 months. Well, I've left Bulgaria now, but Colin, of course, still lives there, and he's sent me over this little bit of video from a day when the temperature reached 42 degrees. The area where people are sitting started out as just a caravan, which I visited in the early days. It was serving food and drink, and it's kind of spread out into a whole street cafe, and everybody's sheltering in the shade here for obvious reasons. Back here in Britain, we've had quite a mixture of weather, but we've still had days when we can sit out on our balcony and watch the traffic go by on the main road, and enjoy the gardens that are right in front of us, and of course a glass of wine. Going back to the 3rd of June, I was going to make more of this particular day if I'd have managed to get up early enough to see the Cunard ship Queen Anne coming into the Mersey. So here it is moored up over in Liverpool at the cruise liner terminal, and I'm taking these pictures from obviously the Wallasey side, and I'm standing right by Mother Redcap's. Mother Redcap's used to be a tavern or a cafe, depending how you viewed it. There's still a poem on the wall of a nearby house that says, "All ye that are weary, come in and take rest. Our eggs and ham, they are of the best." Sounds good to me. It was a cafe or a tavern, depending who you listen to, and in the old photograph you can just see the entrance archway. Eventually the property fell into disrepair and ruin and was knocked down, and as I said, The original archway entrance is all that's left of it. Quick whiz along the river into Birkenhead, and the Woodside Ferry Terminal, which closed in October 2022, is still being worked on. They're on the roof at the moment, as you can see, and it's due to open sometime in mid-2025 apparently. For the time being, if you want to cross the river from here, you just walk across the road into Hamilton Square Station and go down onto the Underground. If you've been watching this channel, you'll know that the Merseyrail trains have all been updated. We've got some brand new trains, but some of the old ones are still running. So in this shot from James Street Station, you can hear a train coming down the tunnel. Can you tell by the noise of the approaching train if it's going to be a 507, the original 3-car train, or the new 777 4-car train? Well, that was a trick question, sorry about that. It was neither. I think this is probably the only convenient way you can move rail traffic across under the river, so you will see from time to time things like this rail freight locomotive. Well, it doesn't appear to be stopping here, so I'll just have to wait for the next one. We're moving north now along the Mersey estuary up to Waterloo, which is in the borough of Crosby. We've been to Marine Lake before now and had a look round there. But today we're going to go up South Road. Now this is, as I may have mentioned before, the area I grew up in, the borough of Crosby as a whole, and South Road Waterloo is one of the main roads. At the bottom of South Road, but just before you get to the river, if you take a right turn, you're then in Mount Pleasant. And on that corner there is the place where I used to get all my business cards printed. This premises was a printer's and is now a tapas bar. I was interested to find out that Crosby has a coffee roaster. Crosby Coffee is something I came across at the railway station cafe in Ormskirk, and so I've come down here just to take a quick look at where they're set up. And I was pleased to see that they had a coffee-themed wall mural, always a nice touch. This seems to be a popular venue for people to go in and get coffee and cake, and I must admit if I wasn't on a flying visit that day, I would have gone and tried it for myself. But I had some more murals to see. There was one just down the road on the side of a van. And back on the Wirral at Morton Cross, this one's been on the side of this house for years, but I think the Queen is still in people's hearts, and this one is likely to be here for quite a long time to come. A little further along on the Liso estate, there's this wall mural, and the pub showing in the pictures is the Oyster Catcher. Now, the Oyster Catcher was the pub that always used to be on this site, but that's all gone. There's new shops and everything here, and there's some pretty nice pictures here. Somebody's done a good job, don't you think? So this is New Brighton Post Office. It's obviously covered in paint in one way or another, but the interesting feature here is the New Brighton Tower. The Tower Ballroom burned down in 1969. I actually watched this burn down as I was driving into Liverpool from Crosby to go to work. You could see it across the river. This is the main shopping street in New Brighton, Victoria Road, and as you can see, the majority of buildings have some kind of artwork or another on the front of them. It's about a mile from here to where Ellie Edwards was tragically killed that Christmas, and one of the pieces of artwork is also about the Ellie Edwards Foundation. Having a metro underground rail system in the form of Merseyrail means it's easy to hop across from the Wirral underneath the River Mersey and right up into the centre of Liverpool at whatever point you want. This is the Liverpool 1 shopping precinct, and the areas around it are Church Street and Lord Street. They've been here for years, and I'm just passing through here, not really a shopping person, but you can see how busy this gets on a normal weekday. So back on the Merseyrail up to Waterloo Station, and then a bus into the centre of Crosby. The part I used to live in is known as Great Crosby, and the main road through this part is Moor Lane. These are up-to-date pictures of Moor Lane Methodist Church, but if I cared to dig them out, I've got some photos of this church from 1976 when I got married there for the first time. The windmill opposite the church is still there. At the time we knew the people who owned it. I have no idea who owns it now. And this is where Moor Lane comes into the centre of Crosby, and the George Hotel is the pub that was there when I was a teenager and is still there now. This used to be the main shopping street with places like Woolworths that have just disappeared and gone. All traffic, including buses, came this way, and now it's all been pedestrianised, and as you can see, people have moved out onto the streets, and this has become the latest cafe culture street for Crosby. Waterloo, Crosby and Thornton are the three main places in the borough of Crosby, and where I lived was nearer to Thornton in a road that opened out onto fields beyond, as you can see from the map. I lived in a pleasant tree-lined road which could supply me with more conkers than I could ever need. The road ran between Moor Lane and the open fields. The far end of the road there was this footpath, and you could get out and go for walks up towards Thornton and Ince Blundell, or down towards Little Crosby. There are some pretty substantial houses in this road, and the one I lived in, which peeks through the trees here, used to be a semi. It's now completely detached. I was slightly disappointed to see that the name for the house had been ditched. There used to be a nameplate on the front of the garage. Let me just put it back where it was. And it's because this is the house where I started to grow and thrive and go through my teenage that it meant so much to me that I have kept the name and used it with various businesses throughout my life.
Well, this is Burnley once again. I've come back to the forest of Burnley. You may remember me getting drenched and trying to hide under the trees. Well, I've come on a sunny day this time and it's all very nice. The lake is here. Steve's bungalow is over the trees, out of sight from here, but only a few minutes walk. So this is the place he can come and enjoy anytime he wants. He can't actually see the lake, but he can see all the forest. We've got some more from his bungalow to show you, and he's been filming that over the weeks. So let's go and take a look at that right now.
And we joined the project where the timber frame is being constructed that will hold the flat roof, and the furrings are being cut which will enable the slope required for drainage of the roof into the gutter. While most of the timber can be cut in advance at the front of the house and then taken up to the roof, some of it has to actually be done in situ. Allowances have been made for 3 skylights, and there'll be more details of those a little later on. For now, we can just sit on the roof and enjoy the view. Now let's go down into the bathroom, where the walls are being covered with a small number of large and very heavy tiles. Now, you may be familiar with ordinary plastic tile spacers, which you'll see being used here, but I'd like to introduce you to the tile levelling kit, and this will enable the tiles to be flush, to be levelled, so you can run your hand across the seams and not feel any ridge at all.
Add that to the convenience of a laser leveling device and you have tiles that are perfectly arranged in all three dimensions. You may remember at the beginning of this year we pointed out that about 100 tonnes of concrete had been poured into the foundations of this property due to requirements of building control, and Steve didn't really want to use any more concrete in the rest of the build, so he decided to look around Burnley, see what was the normal way to construct houses around here, and it turned out to be stone. These houses are still standing, they didn't need really deep foundations, they're all made of stone. That would seem to be the way to go, to be in keeping with Burnley. And as we go further out of town, we're going across bridges and alongside walls that are also made of stone. But what about new developments? Well, on the outskirts of Burnley, we've gone to a place where they're building some new bungalows, and let's see if this is a concrete jungle or it is in keeping with Burnley. We walk down from the sales office, which has a front wall of stone, and there's a bit of rendering as well, which actually offsets the whole effect very nicely. We're showing you the bungalows that are already finished and up for sale, and now we're showing you the front of Steve's house where he's been adding stone to that as well. On our little tour, perhaps he was inspired by the amount of render, so we'll see if he includes some of that in his final design. As well as the flat roof, we also need a roof over the area which will include the garage and a utility room and Steve's office, which will also have a toilet compartment, so you can see the timber structure for that being put in place, as well as the boards being laid down for the base of the flat roof. We get to this stage where they're replacing the main roof, and many of you will be familiar with the techniques involved here, and I find myself listening to the radio that was playing in the background. Now, as a listener to Greatest Hits Radio, I happen to know that they have a Make Me a Winner slot in the afternoons, and they give away anything up to £250,000. And while this film was being made, you can just hear somebody winning £100,000.
You've just won £100,000. Oh my goodness.
Mortgage lenders prefer a pitched roof because of the way it drains, and flat roofs can have problems in that area. This is taken care of in this design of roof. It's called a flat roof, but it's actually not completely flat. It might be a good time to point out that these videos that Steve took were over a period of about 6 weeks, as far as I can make out, involving the construction of the roof, the laying of insulation and so on. So I think we should just take a breather here, have a look round at the environment again, and then come back and do a recap.
As I approached the house on this particular day, they were all working on the roof at the front, and round the back there was already a flat roof in place, and the bungalow was due to be made watertight by the end of the day that I was there. Steve showed me the inside, and first of all the living room, and on the far end left wall there's going to be a big screen TV. If we back up a bit, we're looking down on that living area from what will one day be the kitchen. Couple of shots here from the outside looking in, and then I moved into the area which will be the utility room, and from there looking out to the back there's the area that will be Steve's office, and looking forward to the road I'm looking through the garage, which still has just the timber frame of the roof at the present. The front of the garage outside has been finished off with this keystone. As I said, this is my most recent visit. It was nearly watertight on this day. You can see that pretty much all the fiberglass is down, the matting, and it's been soaked in resin. You can also see the GRP trims, and you should also see the drainage channel, which I think they were calling a gutter, but anyway, it has the effect of draining, because if you look closely at the timber on either side of it, it slopes slightly down towards it from either side. You don't actually notice this when you're walking on the roof. So here I am up on the roof. There's two small skylights at the front being created, one big one right here, so I'm not going too near the edge. You can see my accident-prone self going down there. I'm going back down by the ladder in a minute. But this view is fantastic, and I apparently am not the only one who said they want to be up here on a deck chair when it's all finished. It is quite a view. So we're up at roof level, and the builders behind me. Can you see the builders behind me? Just walk around. They're working on the roof at the front, so we have a lot more to show you, and we may not get it all in this month, but bear with us because we'll get there in the end.
Yeah, it's actually like a resin, so it's the same as what your bathroom.
Oh yeah.
And obviously I'm dressing it down and now into the gutters.
And that'll just seal it.
Yeah.
And here it is, that final moment. The final piece of fiberglass matting goes down in the far corner, and from this point on, the roof is sealed.
So you get the resin out of
Yeah, I'm doing
the
it.
tins over there, which is that red tin behind you. It's the resin that doesn't set on its own, and then you add catalyst to it.
Yeah.
Depending on the temperature of the deck and time of the year, you put in a certain amount of millilitres into the mixture, mix it together, and that determines how quickly it sets.
And just before I go, I'm going to have a look at the bathroom. Nearly all the tiles are in. There's just one left to go up by the look of it. There's concealed lighting being put into the niches. The niches are the inset boxes in the wall, which can later be filled with various cosmetics and so on. By the way, the tall area to the left of that niche is going to be a full height window. And that's all we got time for this month from the Forest of Burnley.